Hello! I wanted to share with you my aquaponics system and the fact that I have a tomato fruit. This particular plant comes from in the ground of my garden in Nebraska. It's currently winter time, January, so when we were cleaning up in the fall, this plant was underdeveloped, had no blooms on it. So since it was so young still, I uprooted it and put it into the system. But what first has to be developed and established is the aquarium. If you want to go aquaponics, you're going to need fish. The fish feed your plants. Now let me explain. Fish excrete ammonia with their natural byproduct. It's waste. So ammonia is converted, or it coexists with nitrite, and nitrite is converted into nitrate by a beneficial bacteria which exists within my grow bed. Now, this bacteria is going to exist in any sort of aquarium because it's part of the cleaning mechanism of cleaning and the cleansing. So as water is uptaken into my grow bed, it is cleansed and it is filtered through the system that I've created. So usually right here I have cardboard blocking off the intense sunlight, southern sunlight, because direct sunlight increases algae growth. But for visibility purposes, I wanted you to be able to see through, and it's always nice to give my fish a little sunlight. You know, they like a little light. Really, I should have an LED light inside of this tank, but there's so much atmospheric surrounding light. Like here, I have my grow light that is feeding my tomato and kale, allowing them to photosynthesize. So I use a combination of the LED and the sunlight. Nature's lantern. So here I have one tomato fruit. I am soon to pick it, but I wanted to show you how it forms. I've only ever had one fruit at a time on this plant. This is my second one. So now I have two blooms here, and I have two blooms here, you can see. But then right here, I have two blooms that never made it. They became flowers, but they never fruited. So at this point, I'm going to pick, how about, let's just do it. Let's see how much give. Well, really, this branch here has, yes, it does not contain any other blooms on it. Okay. Let's just get knee deep into this. So the reason I would pick this fruit is so that the plant has more energy to direct into the blooms that have yet to fruit. Does that make sense? It is right now directing so much energy to maintaining the health of this plant body that I want to be able to direct more energy into the new growth of those blooms. I got cutters. Let's do this. Really, tomato plants smell amazing. They don't smell anything like store-bought tomatoes, unless you get vine ripened. But there we go. This is my second fruit. I just ate the petal. So, I guess that's lunch. Okay, so where were we? Yes. This is my tomato plant, which is constantly fed a supply of water from my aquarium. We have MC Escher here, overlooking the whole process. If you can see the detail in that image. No, because the light is too strong everywhere else. Yes. This is his famous water wheel. I am just enamored by the flow of water and gravity, because as biological systems ourselves, we depend on the intake of water and bringing it in, sending it out. So now we'll get into the mechanics of how this is working. So we see that rectangular object is a pump that draws in the water from the tank. This tube, I specifically sized it to that pump. I believe it's a 1/2 inch tubing, and I use clamps to secure it there. So I have tubing coming from the pump into my grow bed. This is my valve. This is how I would do an emergency shutoff. I would turn this to a 90-degree angle if I wanted to block the water flow. Now, here is where the water gets sent back down. I have used silicone all around here to make this watertight and to secure this, because there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of weight bearing down on this here. It wants to burst. I've had leaks, I've had drips. I've had luck lately since I have applied about twice as much silicone than I had at the very start. So this system is 4 months old, and I haven't had any catastrophes. No catastrophic catastrophes. It's kind of risky because here I am on carpet. No drain. Bless my parents for allowing me to do this in their basement. Now, the way that we make sure that none of this hydroton, this is hydroton, aka expanded clay. It is porous, so it allows water and air to flow through it. And then I have this screen here, and this is also in the larger system. But this makes sure that no hydroton gets into the aquarium. So it's just a filter screen. And gravity sends the water right back down. There's not as much bubbles from this one because it's just less water pressure, with less force, the water comes back down. That's my girl. She actually had a case of Popeye, which is like a blister on your eye. And I use this aquarium salt, diluted into water, and that was kind of like Epsom salt, you know, it sterilizes the environment. So what is a necessity for the system is, see all those bubbles coming up from the gravel? That's coming from an air stone. And so, super simple mechanism. You can buy that at your pet store, local pet store. That's also a water heater. These fish prefer about 70 degrees in their tank. And then you're going to need your pump. And you're going to have to fit the tubing specifically to the size of your pump. So I believe that's 1/2 inch tubing right there connected to the pump, but then it has to convert into 3/4 inch right there, where I've taken a few clamps and resized it because, is this 3/4 or 1 inch? And then that is directed all the way into the drip nozzle, which again is constantly feeding my root system with fresh fish water. So it's kind of loud. Never stops gurgling. I do water changes about once a week. I just scoop out the water, about 1/3 of the tank's water, right after I kind of rough it up with the net, take some solids out, because so many things just settle into the gravel that I have to rough up the gravel in order to release what it has been holding on to. And so I'll add in fresh water straight from the tap. I wish I could do entirely distilled water. It's not totally out of the question, but for time and price comparison, I just use tap water because, again, I only take 1/3 of the water out of the tank at a time, so it's not like I'm adding a majority. So plenty of time for it to dechlorinate, which happens over time because the chlorine gas evaporates. So I went out of town and had a neighbor girl and my dad helping out. They were feeding the fish, and I didn't have them clean it or anything. I was only gone for a week. But came back, and the water level here was low. It was about just over a half full. And I had said, please top off the tank with water as evaporation will occur. But it's okay. My fish survived. But that will happen if you don't have a cover over your aquarium. You will experience drastic evaporation over time. Much more drastic in the smaller tanks because there's just less water in there, but it's at the same rate of evaporation. So you're going to experience some water loss without a lid. With this larger tank, though, it's so big, there's so much water already, the fish hardly even come above this level here. They kind of max out at some point. Now let's see here. We saw the girl over there in the smaller tank. Now this is, I think it's her sister. The whole reason I had to split their tanks, this was the first one that I had filled, but this female had laid eggs. The male was fertilizing. Oh, here he is. He's, probably can't see the detail, but he's gray and black striped. And so there's a pink female and there's a gray and black striped male. And there were 2 pairs. And so the male and female had paired up to develop their nest and lay eggs and fertilize the eggs. And so they became very territorial, and it was stressing out the entire tank. They were headbutting, and just it was uncomfortable to watch because you could tell that the other fish, they just want to be comfortable in their own home. And so I scooped them out. First time I've ever been fishing, too. I've never had a fishing line in the water. This is my first time catching a fish. They were my own, and I didn't even kill them. I don't need to eat them. I wanted to, at first, grow shrimp and tilapia and the possibly edible fish, but right now I'm so much more excited about the plants coming to fruition out of this that at this small scale it wouldn't make sense to grow fish for food. And so when I transferred the male and female over to the small tank, I developed it as its own. That's when I came up with the smaller reservoir here with the kale. And it's got to be smaller because the tank is smaller. So your plant reservoir has to relate to the size of your aquarium. And so when I transferred them over here, the male experienced some extreme PTSD because he stopped eating. He became very lethargic. What he did was just hang out right on top of that pump, right above it. He would lean against the wire where there's a buzz. You can feel the vibration, and he would just lean on that vibration, and it was very uncomfortable. He started headbutting the wall. I think he went through something very tragic because he killed himself. He rubbed off his own fins. Yeah, so farewell to that cichlid, but he's gone, and now I can't even call this female fish his mate, but she remains. So, I also have an algae eater in here. He sticks to the, he's usually stuck to the pump, but he sticks to the walls too, and he eats the algae. If you can see back there, there's a good sized finned fish. That is also an algae eater under the pump. And he's about 5 to 6 inches long. I got these fish from a friend who had an aquarium, a very well established large aquarium in her house, but they didn't want to take care of the fish anymore, so as I had this in development, that came along, and I jumped at the opportunity to have those fish, and it's perfect how this worked out. Also, this aquarium comes from a friend. This is a 10-gallon aquarium that was holding a snake, my friend's snake, and the snake was getting bigger and bigger, so you have to give them a bigger size area to live as they grow. And I actually traded her a terrarium that I had initially and originally was going to use for my aquaponics system. I was going to use a terrarium and not my aquariums because I didn't have an aquarium. So terrariums are made for dry animals, for lizards and snakes. And the thickness of the glass is not the same because they're not built to hold water pressure. So I decided not to experiment with that and just give it away. It was a 75-gallon aquarium, so it would have been amazing to have that size available to me because the larger volume of water you have, the more plants you can feed. So I'm excited to develop the size of my project, my experiment. This has been the best decision of my life to get involved in this. And you can buy a kit online. You can get something that's already pre-made. You can even buy it on the shelf at the store. Omaha has a wonderful gardening store called Paradigm Gardens, and they specialize in indoor growing. So I got my pumps from them because they do a lot of hydroponics and aquaponics. The difference between hydroponics and aquaponics is that hydroponics does not contain fish, but there is still a direct flow of water into the root system. So they have a website internationally. You can order from Paradigm Gardens. I got my tubing from them. I got my clamps. I got my pumps and one water heater, the first water heater for the larger tank. Also my air stone, which sends the bubbles up, which, again, H2O, hydrogen, oxygen. You need a healthy amount of oxygen for your fish to be healthy. So I have this returning tube from my plant bed, sends plenty of bubbles into the tank, but at first I thought that was enough. That would count as my air supply, but the fish were were centralizing around this area so much that I had to balance it out with another airstone in my swamp castle. And then there's my heater, my water heater, my airstone, my pump. I have a thermostat. You need a thermostat. Right now we're sitting just above 70 degrees, which is comfortable for them. I have had to adjust the temperature of my heater. Like I said, it's at 70 degrees, or 70, just about 75, right under it. But the actual heater is gauged at 90 degrees. Because looky here. There's snow on the ground. There's a draft that comes out of this door. And so you really have to keep up. Keep watching. Make sure that you mark any differences in behavior. Like I mentioned, the one cichlid that killed himself. There was nothing I can do to make him happier. I tried to add, there's additive. I tried to add things to the tank, but he was in such shock from being taken out of his environment and put into a new one, even after being taken away from his original home. So you're gonna have some gains and you're gonna have some losses. But I really like playing music for them. I think this gets them the most active. Let's see how they respond. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I will upload more as I learn more, as this continues to develop. Share this video. Thumbs me up. If you're interested, ask me questions. If you have a project of your own, I'd love to check it out. I'd love to see it. I want to learn. I want to collaborate. I am so excited to develop this project. Thank you for watching.